Well, let me open up this morning by asking you a question. This is something I do an awful lot because I'd like to engage your thoughts and I'd like to lay the groundwork for application so that we're not just learning information, but we're experiencing transformation. So here's my question for you. What do baking cakes and church planting have in common? What do baking cakes and church planting have in common? The answer really depends on what kind of church you're looking for. Baking cakes, planting churches. When it came to baking a cake, let me just start off by asking you, how would you go about doing it? Would you go down to the store and get a box that says cake and just read what it says on the box and make a box cake? Would you start from scratch? If you started from scratch or you used a box, would you use a recipe? Whose recipe would you use? Would you care about the ingredients that you were going to use, be it out of a box or your grandmother's recipe or your own recipe? Would you ensure that you were dealing with fresh ingredients? Would you care if they were foul ingredients? Or would the whole question of ingredients altogether be frivolous to you and say, why are we even talking about ingredients? How about adherence to the recipe? Would you follow the recipe and its directives 80% of the way? 90% of the way? 95% of the way? How important would it be to follow the instructions of the recipe? How about timing? How about timing and its relationship? Would you bake it, let's say, for 45 minutes? 4 minutes? Would you bake it at 450 or 275? Do any of these things matter? So let's say we go with the way that you would say would be the best recipe. Not the box, because you know what, anybody can have a box. But we did it the best way you knew how. And here's that example. Picture this cake right here. Now here's the other one where we didn't really care. Whether we got one out of the box, and because you know, cake is cake is. Or if we went and we did one on our own, but we didn't really pay any attention to the recipe. You know, some of the eggs had been sitting out for 3 or 4 days, and frankly, they stunk. But, you know, they were there, so we used them. And the milk had soured and curdled, but who cares? It was milk. And I don't know if we put it in for 45 minutes or 20 minutes. I think it started off at 475, and the oven went down to 150. I don't know. But here it is. Ta-da! Cake. Which one would you want to eat? Would it matter? Yeah. I want to ask you to think now about church planting. If those little details would matter about a cake to the point that you would be invited and find appealing the one, and frankly, you'd be repulsed by the other, how much more so is this true when it comes to God's church? There's a reason why Jesus said, I will build my church, because he has a plan. And he has a purpose, and he has priorities. And praise God, he has people that he uses to build his church.